Something woke Anne-Marie up early, a crash loud enough to cause her to jump up in bed, fearing Al might have fallen in the shower, or maybe someone had broken into the apartment. No sight of him in the bed. Then the sun went dark through the curtains, and the room was suddenly flooded in a red, blinding haze, as if something were coming through the windows, something red and dusty in the air. "Al, hey, where are you?" No reply. She heard the morning news blaring from the other room. Al had to be in the other room, wasn't he? "Al, hey, you still here?" Still no answer. Would he leave without turning the television off? But he never turned the news on, not in the evenings, and sure as hell never in the morning. The morning news. She heard the frantic terror of someone doing something wrong. Another murder, another suspect on the loose. And then something about the possibility of every bank being shut down across the country. Now that was a first for her to hear in the morning. Al always hated watching the news. Always complained about how meaningless it meant to him. Never watched it once with her in all the 7 years of their relationship. Not even during last year's elections. What was going on? Al? Now she was scared. Forget about the coffee he'd always bring her. No chance of that happening this morning. She slid on her slippers and nightgown. The air was dark red in the kitchen too. So thick she could barely see the paintings on the wall, even make out the bowls on top of the fridge. What was that horrible smell? Rotten eggs in burning metal? A pot left on the burner? A trace of a leftover eggs in the pot? Something burning in the stove? But she didn't see any of those things. Nothing was on the stove. Not a pot or pan. The oven was off. "Al? Hey, what's going on?" Still no sight of him. The kitchen table was cluttered with bank statements reprinted from the computer. Stacks and stacks of them. Al had piled up every month and arranged them in yearly stacks. The statements went back 7 years. Broken down into all the spending in her name. Not his. They were paper-clipped and all next to a handwritten note. $13,463.23. What she owes me. The red ink irked her eyes, like the poison of an octopus or the venom of a spider stinging her nerves. What's this about? When a sudden breeze struck her face, she nearly fell to the floor. It was as if the wind had stung her soft skin. The air was strikingly hot for this time of the morning. It had to be at least 100 degrees out, and it was barely even a few minutes past 8 o'clock. Just as strange was that the kitchen window was open. Neither of them ever opened the windows to their apartment. Never once. Al would never have any of that because of his allergies. No way the window was left open last night. Why was it open now? Outside, the red haze blotted out the sun. She spotted a dozen or so airliner jets spraying the air with the red thing. And the air was carrying right into the kitchen, leaving a coat of red film on the windowsill, cabinets, and countertops. She pulled down the window to keep it out. By the time she grabbed the towel to clean it up, Al walked in. "What are you doing?" "That stuff. It's all over the place. I don't know what it is, but it's grossing me out." "Don't clean it up," he said. "I've been calling out for you. Why didn't you answer?" She couldn't stand the sight of the red film covering up her favorite picture of them together. She had to wipe it off. She had to. Oh God, what the hell is this stuff? Al grabbed her arm to stop her. "Just leave it alone, will you?" "Did you open the window?" "Of course," he said. "Why?" "Because I like the smell. It's refreshing." "What's the hell's wrong with you?" She snatched her hand away and slammed the window down. "This stuff is gross." "Don't do that." She darted a hard glance at him. "Are you all right?" "Why do you ask?" "Because you're acting strange." "Am I?" "In more ways than one," she said. "You've got a strange note on the table. What's this about?" "I'm not in the mood to talk, not right now." "Not in the mood?" she said. "Well, I guess not. You didn't even bring me a coffee in bed, or kiss me like you always do before you start your day." "It's off," he said. What is? The wedding, he said. I'm not marrying you. What the fuck? That's right, he said. You're not earning your keep. My keep? I know what you're up to. You're just like the rest of them. You're all out to stop people like me. Out to stop what we're all about. Out to stop this. He slid the window open. This? She went for the window, but he grabbed her arm. Are you serious? The wedding's off, he said. Why? What happened? You're not earning your keep, he said. You've been using me. Using you? It's all about my money, isn't it? He said. Yeah, I know it now. I do. You've been leeching off of me for money, sucking me dry, taking all you can while the taking's good. I'm so glad they woke me up to people like you. I'm so glad. They? Who? It's all because of scavengers like you. What is? What are you talking about, Al? You parasites, he said. It's just like the president said this morning. We need to rein in our spending, and we all need to make sacrifices to turn the country around. We've got to be rid of the social programs. We've got to save and strengthen our dollar to get rid of the deflation. He said we all need to find the thorns in our side and get rid of the weeds in society, the leeches who've caused the debt bubbles, the ones who caused the overseas crash last night. People like you. Me? What people? What crash? No response. There had to be some sort of answer for his behavior, his crazy words. Al was never prone to mood swings, not like this. Not even a kiss on the back of her neck, not even a kind look in his eye, not even a good morning. In the 7 years they'd known each other, they'd never fought once. And what the hell happened last night? But nothing had. Last night was beautiful, full of kisses and hugs over the soft white cod he'd baked for her, full of capers, white wine, and sliced heirloom tomatoes. What happened to him? She glanced at the liquor cabinet. Have you been drinking? Just breathing in the air, he said. It's so calming, isn't it? She yanked her arm away. You're on something else. What? Pot? Pills? What aren't you telling me? I'm on something else, all right, he said. You know me. I don't do drugs. Never tried. Because I'm always seeking the truth. The truth, all right. You haven't been true to me. It's all been one big lie. For 7 years. One big lie. God, don't yell at me. Why are you so mad all of a sudden? What the hell's gotten into you? What are you talking about? She said. I love you, okay? I really do. Love, he chuckled. What's love got to do with it? Just then, he grabbed his phone from the table and turned for the door. She pulled him back. Is it another girl? Hell no. His eyes were wide and bloodshot from the red haze blowing in through the window. Then what is it? Why now? Why all of a sudden? I already told you. Money? You bet, he said. Now I've got to get to work. Someone's got to float this boat. Someone's got to pay the bills around here. You should pack your bags today. You're not carrying your weight. Then he turned for the door and stormed away through the living room. She couldn't catch up to him fast enough. No, he was too quick. Don't leave, she cried. Don't walk out on me, not like this. Don't go, please, Al. Fuck no. Don't you leave me like this. He slammed the door, loud enough to be heard echoing between the buildings and back into the kitchen over the blaring news. She drew open the curtain to the front window and watched him go down the stairwell. Watched him slide right into her car and disappear into the red haze which covered every inch of the air. When she turned to the television, she saw the president's face. Something was scrolling over the screen about a national emergency. What was it about that man? Something evil and strange in his eyes, odd and hypnotic in his energy. Something convincing in every word he said. And that was the strange thing. How he'd ever won the last election on such negativity was beyond her. And it was beyond all of the pundits and the comprehension of either ruling party that had lost in an upended tight race, upended by a third party. We've all got to clear the air and rethink our position on entitlement programs. This is about survival of the fittest. The time has come not only for our nation to change, but for every nation too. And now his strange, hypnotic energy was spilling over into her fiancé? What the hell is going on? Is this a dream? A nightmare? When am I going to wake up? Anne-Marie couldn't stand the sight of the president. She had to shut the damn thing off and did. Then she grabbed her phone. It was time to call her father, to hear his voice, to hear a voice of reason for what happened. How could she forget to dial him last night? How? God, she was feeling scared. Her skin was suddenly full of goosebumps. It seemed to be turning whiter and paler, even with the air slowly coating it with red dust. Her legs trembled, and her nails turned purple, and yet the air was too hot. What's wrong with the air? What's wrong with Al? What if he kicked her out to the street? What if he was serious? What if he didn't change his mind? She eyed the window and wanted to close it. She had to get the red air out of her apartment. It almost seemed to be alive with something, but what? Just then she felt faint and the room started to spin. Her mind began to race, as if something was trying to take control of her thoughts. As if something was trying to tell her how terrible she was, and how much Al was right. How much she needed to give in and change. You have been using him. You know it's true. You know he's right. You need to change, Anne. You're a terrible person, Miss Braxton, and you always will be unless you join us. She clutched onto the table and tried to block her mouth and nose. Whatever was in the air was causing her to go mad, and she knew it. Daddy! She had to dial up her father, Dr. Willie Braxton. She had to hear his voice. He'd have good insight over this. He had to. Besides, she owed her father a phone call. He'd been trying to reach her for over a week now. What was the emergency he'd been texting her about? Something to do with the red air? The president? The change in Al? Maybe her father knew something was going to happen. Something like this. It had to have something to do with the red air. She could feel it. It was as if the red air was trying to change her mind about herself. Had it changed Al's thinking? Had it? A crazy thought, she knew that, but her father had to be sending out dire texts for good reason. He was a top-ranking scientist in the Air Force. He knew everything there was about top-secret happenings, even UFOs and top-secret health experiments, chemtrails and vaccinations on the general population. He'd only give hints, but that was enough. After 50 years in the service, he knew everything. He had the highest security clearance possible. She broke away from the table and ran back into the bedroom. Then she slammed the door shut. The red air hadn't made its way into the bedroom just yet. Just a few faint traces lingered near the door. Not enough to keep her mind racing out of control. In no time, the negativity subsided. She began to collect herself when she reached for the phone. I didn't use Al. That's not me. I never used him. Not once. She dialed up her father and the phone began to ring. And it kept ringing. Oh God, Daddy, please answer. Please pick up. Don't let me go to voicemail. Hurry up. Get to your phone. I need to hear your voice. Just pick up, please. Please pick up the phone. Just then, she got the dreadful message. Dr. Braxton's phone number was disconnected, no longer in service. After she sent a text message, within seconds, it was kicked back. This number is no longer in service. Please contact your service provider. She tried the number again and again. No luck. When she glanced up at the clock, things got worse. She was going to be at least an hour late for work today, and Felix wasn't going to like seeing her come in late. No, he'd never approve of that. She knew she was heading up a creek without a paddle, without a boat, without a life-saving vest. She knew this was going to be one of the worst days of her life. And now, of course, she was going to miss seeing Mickey too. The only friend she could talk this out with. Mickey would listen. He always did. Not unless something had gotten into him too. And wouldn't it just be her luck if something bad did? The last thing she wanted to do was step outside the bedroom, back into that red air. God, something was in the air. Something evil.